Hello and welcome to the second Inner Wealth podcast, hosted of course by myself, Reece Martin Quigley. Right, moving into it, we're going to pick up where we left off from the first one, which is to move into understanding and explaining will. Will as a phenomena, and more so, will as the first principle of self-esteem. I'm going to read the short explanation first that you'll find in the 7 Principles of Self-Esteem mini book, just to lay the ground. So, will. There is no esteem without any will, for there is no you without any will. To this end, the warrior of esteem knows well it is better to face consequence, fear and even death before he or she willingly surrenders themselves to the death of spirit. Only guilt, shame, loss and regret live there, and then a life spent avoiding it. This is not a life fit for anyone, but many live it. In fact, most. Not because they chose to live this way, but because they did not choose at all. When another living that life of avoidance naturally comes to impose their abandonment upon you, you will have the choice to surrender your sovereignty to the collective corruption to avoid the confrontation they bring, or ignite, lock eyes with that demon and say no in the many ways that exists. It may be simple disobedience in some situations. It may be a fuck you. It may call for something physical, but they all mean the same thing. No. The coward sells their esteem for fear that they are not capable, enough, or worth the fight. The warrior says that shit's not for sale. And now we're going to find out what's what and who's who. This is why will is principle 1, because it is the precursor to all knowledge. The coward will sell their soul for an illusion and builds an equally illusory life around that illusion. The warrior says, let's find out. And so does. The quote at the bottom of this is, freedom is not free. So that's a short introduction to will. And in that short amount of space, I really try to convey the energy more than details. I want you to feel it. I don't want you to think it. I don't want you to be informed about it. I want you to ignite. I want you to feel this thing inside you that you need to feel and grab onto when shit gets rough and go, ah, you know? When it's necessary, when it's needed. For love. For the love of love. For the love of good things. For the love of self-respect, for the love of dignity that you are not being treated with or shown. And when you stand up for that, you stand up for the dignity inside the person that's abusing you also, because they're not acting in a dignified manner. The good is universal, and that's maybe one of its greatest powers. If you fail this task of owning yourself in this way, you cannot move on to progress in life. You can acquire items, you can acquire status, you can acquire much of anything, I suppose. You can acquire STDs if you like. You can acquire things, but you cannot be something. You may convince people, even yourself, that you are becoming something. But how are you going to be something when you can't even hold yourself? A real self. You can hold thoughts in your head, you can hold data and information, but how? When you have no will, true, honest will, without other people's opinions to bolster you up, without money to bolster you up, without something external, without that external thing, you have no will. All you have is fear, shame, disappointment, and every other real emotion that lives in you that you did not purge out and you've allowed to fester and grow because you conceded when it mattered most. What the fuck are you going to do if you fail this one task? This happens early, in fact, in most people's lives. And that's it. That's all that happens. The rest is just empty folly. Folly, for most people who don't, it's not a common term. Circus. facade, bravado, nothing, fugazi.
It's not on the elemental chart. It's not fucking real, right? All right.
No, so, like passive-aggressive jokes, that sort of not being spoken, not talking about the elephant in the room. Your life will become that. Now, if you think that's an over-exaggeration, any of this, think about the level of passive-aggressive patheticness that you experience as soon as someone feels like they can attack you without consequence. This is their inner regret acting out upon you and the world. How many people, when they've got the money to say fuck you, say fuck you? How many people, when they're inside their little metal box, act in a way that they wouldn't act to your face? Even dangerously so, risking lives sometimes. How many of them, and this is the road rage, right? How many of them talk poop online and they'd never say it to your face? And if they would say it to your face, they would say it with more respect, more dignity. This is this demon that's taken over them. The demon of being a pathetic human, of being spiritually inept to talk and hold themselves while they express themselves, because they're so scared of someone else's opinion, because they're already broken by that. They already harbour trauma from that they have never addressed ever again. They never went and smacked the bully that smacked them, that took their shit. They never went back and dealt with it. They ain't gone and dealt with any of the stuff, right? And so that's what's in them now, is these impressions left from all these people, from all these things. And they don't go back and purge or clean or do anything with that. And then when their life force is going through all of this, and these are their impressions that are marked on their brain, what's going to happen? You act in that same way to others. And it's not just an empty subconscious act. While much of it is, they now do it because they want to be the predator in that situation. They want to thrive off of being the guy who won in that situation, which was their demon, their bully. So they become a demon, right? And not like a demon, not like anything to be proud of. We're talking about the most pathetic kind that feeds on innocence, naivety, children, like a child, not necessarily a physical child, but like the childishness inside someone, the innocence inside someone. They don't go and find a warrior to fight, to bully. They go and fight someone who can't fight. So this is the inverse problem. And this is the inverse problem that happens when we do not take it upon ourselves to meet the first requirement of having any esteem. Now, I want to move on to something that's more scientific, more geometric, and more clean to talk about. Now, will is the base of awareness. If you have no will, you won't be aware, right? Because it's related to consciousness. It's the will to be conscious, right? Will, if you can hold on to this aspect of will, of confrontation, right? When you face your trauma, you will dissolve it. If you hold on to yourself when you go and face the bully, you will dissolve that bully. Even if you get beat up, you'll dissolve the bully that exists here. You'll dissolve the demon that was in here. And that person is probably not going to come and see you again, even if you got beat up, because I bet you smashed him a couple of times in the mouth. And he's not interested in that. He's broken, right? Or she's broken. This doesn't apply to genders unequally. So will is the thing that says, I count, I'm alive, I'm here, I'm awake, I'm looking at you right now. How important do you think that is? To not just the outcome of your life, but the quality of it. What about to the quality of your relationships? Do you think they want items, the people that you're with? If they do you think they're the right person? Do you think they want attention from someone who has none? Do you think they want love from someone who has none? They want your presence, That's what heals them. That's what they bathe in when they're around you. Unless they are also inverted themselves and you guys are equally parasiting from each other and having this modern narcissistic exchange. Dare I even say the word relationship? So how important is it to have will. And yet how dangerous and awkward and expensive and painful is the world going to make it for you to dare have any? How dare you think that? People want to control other people's thoughts all the time. They want to control how you see them, how you think of them. How desperate is that? Meanwhile, how insanely disgusting is that to even want to infringe upon that right? And yet they are so desperately scared of being perceived a certain way that they will infringe upon that right. For you to have your own mind. You may even be hearing what I'm saying now, and please stick with it if you are in this space. You may even be hearing what I'm saying now and hearing a lot of yourself. I don't want you to be ashamed of it and turn away and hate yourself if you are or feel any of these things. This is modern culture right now. This is devastating, but we must face it. And we must face the pieces of ourselves that want those things and understand that that is not unnatural. It's natural if we allow ourselves to fall. We're going to get more and more twisted, more and more sick as we progress to fall, because we need more and more control because we can't control ourselves. And we have no way to control ourselves because we have no will. We have no esteem. We have no space inside. And so everything becomes a squashed 2D dynamic of power. Is she with me? Is she not? Can I have it? Can I not? Yes or no? Ones or zeros? Program. And eventually, just plug me in then. It's just serotonin and dopamine. It's not meaning. I want to control and know everything in this sterile psychopathic way so that nothing can hurt me ever again. Because I can't stop myself from being hurt. Because I'm not capable. Because I can't even take the pain. Because no matter what, I won't risk anything. That's the things that don't get said. The spiritual state of the person. So, moving on. That's some of, obviously, what happens when we don't implement that one first stage. And everyone else that hasn't implemented it will make sure that you suffer the most when you do. This is also part of your trial. Fair or not, and it's certainly not fair. But it will make you grow if you stick with it. See, we live in a society that's been groomed into feeling self-pity. Much of modern mental health is actually that. Now, if you feel sorry for yourself and you believe something's wrong with you, then guess what? The environment around you don't take the blame. That's number one of what they're going to make you feel, is that you're ill if you start to stand up for yourself. In certain environments, obviously a bully that hits you won't, but the family, when you reject their future they've planned out for you, they'll say you're wrong, they'll say you're ill, they'll say that there's something wrong with you. Maybe it's bipolar, maybe it's ADHD. Guess what happens next? The drugs. And then what happens after you get used to the drugs? You have got something wrong with you. You've got a drug dependency. And it goes into a multi-billion-dollar industry between psychiatrics and pharmaceuticals, because it makes a bunch of psychopaths rich, and your parents will take that path because it makes them right, because at least their ego isn't wrong, right? This inversion that's possessed the world because it's easy to be weak. It's very, very, very hard to be strong. And the more people that are weak, the harder it makes it for the few to be strong. So we're getting to the point where you must be Herculean to hold yourself, because the world is against that. Because when you hold yourself and ignite, you will illuminate all of where they are rotten. This is the task of will, and what I really want to get across here is, do you know how hard it is to turn a 0 into a 1? It's fucking impossible. But you can do it. You come from nowhere initially, and you're here now. You weren't born at one time. You're here now. That's 0 to 1. You can do this too. No matter how much you may feel like you've betrayed yourself up until now, you can do this too. I don't care how old you are, you can do this too. What you're going to have to do, especially if the fear is so great, and it's very simple, but it's very hard, you have to be willing to die. That doesn't mean you're going to die. It doesn't even mean you've got to risk your life, but you have to be willing to die. That's what it's going to feel like, because you've got a will to receive any consequence, to break free, because your brain is going to make sure that you feel that level of fear to keep you in order. You've got to let your family down. You've got to split up with your partner. You've got to go and see someone and confront them that maybe scares you. Whatever is going on for you, whatever prison you have helped block yourself into, you have to deal with that in a way that is powerful, righteous, and from a place of ownership, if you want to burn with this white fire that is will. I know this sounds hard, and it will be, but you are worth it. You are fucking worth it. And you'll find that out when you do it. And it's going to be the beginning of unbelievable things. Unbelievable things that is so far beyond what you've been offered by your culture, by your parents, by your friends. Because unfortunately what you're going to have to find out is that they didn't have your best in mind. They had their own best in mind, but that best wasn't even their best because they didn't even invest in that. They had the best of their ego in mind. Maybe a better way of saying that is they also fell to some kind of pressure, and that shaped their mind. That's their ego, by the way, the operating system of their mind. Whatever the part is that they find resonance in your life, where they're pushing these ideas onto you, will be, actually, you'll find it's where they've fallen also. Where they've sold their soul, sold their agency and sovereignty, their divine right to rule themselves, to these ideas and beliefs that are made out of fear and lack. If you've got a true friend, even there doesn't have to be a perfect friend. If you've got a true friend, they will come from a very different place when they give you advice. You'll notice it comes from a place of dignity, ownership, truth, love, freedom. Not affection when I say love, but love. The love to honour your higher possibility. Not shove it down your throat, but give it the space. You see it in their eyes, you see it in the space they give you, you feel it in the way they talk to you, in the respect and love they give you through their presence. I'm not saying go and listen to that person, value that person, but you haven't got to listen to that person, you've got to listen to you. The real part of you. But to hear that voice, you may need to break out of a lot of other things. And that voice may be also the voice you've turned on all your life up until this point because you've been taught to. Like I say, it's not easy. This isn't easy. But I'm going to say it again, you're worth it. And you're going to make yourself worth it by doing that. Every time you do the opposite, you show yourself you're not worth it and then you believe it. Because you're not acting that way. You're not proving it that way. And the part of you that has any esteem or belief at all is the part of you we're talking about. The part of you that needs to ignite. See, the other part is a brain. It's a program. It's an ego. And that will tell you whatever it thinks. And it thinks from what? From what the environment told me. From what the last thing I did told me. So if If I tell myself I'm a good boy and someone else tells me I'm a good boy, I must be a good boy. You don't want that false lead in your life. If you get told you're handsome today, you don't want that false lead in your life. If you get told you're ugly, oh, then you're fucked, didn't you? Right? Ugly one day, handsome another day. You don't want your life to be hanging by those kinds of strings. But you know who does want your life hanging by those kinds of strings? The person who wants to control you with this. Authority, governments, institutions, culture, the people that run the world currently, who control the world through their TV, through their phones, through their voice. Because people are influential, and they're influential when they've lost their influence. Their will to influence themselves, their belief, their will to believe in themselves. It's why the teacher shouts. It's why you are taught to sit and listen, even though it's an ineffective way to get children to learn. But authority comes first. It is why you can buy a yacht with the same money you buy food with, because we need it to be survival. We need it to be fearful. We are not civilized. We have fridges full of food that go and get chucked out every single day with cameras, facial recognition cameras above them, because they can afford that technology, but they can't afford to feed their citizens. They can't afford to make food free in a civilized society when there's plenty to go around. It's called domination. And only when you have a sense of self that is spiritual, a will you see it and feel it for exactly what it is. It's only then that you will start to become awake to body language, tone of voice, intents behind thoughts, intents behind structures, behind the designs of things. Because until then, you've already accepted who you are based upon who they've told you to be. And that person deserves no dignity of what I am talking about. Only to find someone, a celebrity, a film star, someone in fiction maybe, for you to fantasize about, romanticize about those empowerments that you've gave up on being able to provide for yourself. So that is it for Principle 1's will. I'm going to leave it raw like this. I'm not going to script it. I'm going to continue to do all of the 7 principles like this to convey the energy, because the energy is more important than the instructions, than the words. These are not things that you don't know. These are things that you know inside your being, but it's a part of your being that needs to feel it. It's not a part of your being that needs to know it. But you do know it, because you do feel it. But it might not be as clean yet. But if it is, then you really know what I'm talking about. The real reason and the real thing that destroys our will and our ability to understand will and our ability to act upon will and act willfully is not a lack of knowledge. This stuff, this essence, this essential force was here long before knowledge. It's because you've been bullied out of it. It's because we live in a world that wants centralised control. And that's not just represented by a government. That's represented by every toxic person that doesn't want to own themselves, that wants money, status, as ways to compensate for the black hole inside them. It's their way of parasiting their sense of worth, being and life from others. Parasite, by the way, is, if you break down the word, it means that it's not from the original site. Parasiting is because they don't belong there. And you make the world a better place when you stop those people, even if you only stop them feeding on you. This is the biggest challenge of Principle 1's will. how can you have any sense of self or self-esteem when you must be what someone else tells you to be? How can you have any self-respect when you cannot even give yourself enough to be who you are in the light of life happening, which part of that is consequence. It's hard, man, but as I say, it'll be the best thing you do with your life if you implement Principle 1's will and start your journey of esteem. Thank you for listening, as always. Much love from your host, Reese Martin Quigley.